And I do a lot of traveling, and it was just such a beautiful drive along 88 and all those curves, and oh my gosh, and then I got here and a loon was flying overhead and calling. It's like, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. So I'm delighted to be here. Come on up a little bit. Come on up, you can come all the way up here. My name is Rebecca Lazard, and I'm the founder and the director of a nonprofit organization called Wings of Wonder. Wings of Wonder is located over west of Traverse City, just outside of the village of Empire. So it's not really that far from here. And at Wings of Wonder, we work exclusively with raptors, which are also called birds of prey. And in Michigan, that includes 7 different categories of birds. There's eagles, owls, hawks, falcons, osprey, harriers, and vultures. So those are the kinds of birds that we work with at Wings of Wonder. We have a multifaceted mission. Our most important mission is education. And I do all of the educational programs at Wings of Wonder. I do now about 170 programs a year, and so that's why I travel a lot. And that's why it's so cool to finally be here in Central Lake. And I always bring live birds to every single one of my programs because I want to give my audience members, such as each one of you, a close encounter with a live raptor. That's what changed my life 23 years ago. I have a degree in biology and only worked with mammals. I took my one required bird class in college, and then I'm like done with birds. I actually was never interested in birds. I thought birds were kind of weird, and people who worked with birds were even weirder. Until 23 years ago, I had the opportunity to work with an injured red-tailed hawk, and that experience completely changed my life. So maybe by giving you guys a close encounter with a live raptor, it might change your lives too, and hopefully in the positive. We have 12 birds at Wings of Wonder that are our ambassador birds used in education, and all 12 of those birds have a permanent disability, meaning there's just something wrong with them. They can't survive in the wild. So you'll learn these guys' stories when I get them out. We do have the 12 birds, but only 11 of them are actually currently used in education because our 12th bird is now retired from doing off-site programs. She's an older great horned owl, about 30 years old now, but she still provides us great service to us. She's a foster mom, and currently she is fostering chick number 30. So she's a wonderful mom. She takes these babies in, and she teaches them how to survive as a great horned owl in the wild. Each year I give her these orphan chicks. I think she's going to be like, no, I'm done with children. But this year we only had the one chick, and as soon as I showed it to her, she wrapped her wings around it and was like, mine, and just snapped at me like, get away. So she's just worth more than her weight in gold. But the other 11 birds are actively used in education. We also do rehabilitation, which means that we admit to our clinic or our sanctuary sick, injured, and orphan raptors with the goal of getting them healthy and back out to the wild. We have 11 veterinary hospitals on board who donate their services, and these veterinarians range from Petoskey all the way down to south of Cadillac. So these clinics provide us with x-rays, surgeries, medications, and of course those dreaded euthanasias, which is to end an animal's life by lethal injection. We invite the public to all of our releases. Please don't take anything off the table, okay, until we're done, all right? People can, families can take a brochure, one per family, but don't take anything else off the table yet. After the program, you can hand the buckets. Okay? We rehab anywhere between 50 and 75 raptors a year, and our release rates are very high. We do invite the public to all of our releases, and if you want a special invitation to a release, all you need to do is submit your email to Wings of Wonder. And then I put out an e-invitation inviting you to the next releases. And I can invite you right now to our next release, which is tomorrow. We are releasing an adult bald eagle up near Charlevoix, just at the north end of Charlevoix, at St. Mary's Cement Plant, which sounds like a bizarre place to release an eagle, but St. Mary's has done an amazing habitat restoration project up there, and this is like our 7th eagle release up there over the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, but they always make it a really fun party, and they have somebody there making donuts, and they give those away, and they give away apple cider, so you can come and eat and watch an eagle release and celebrate with us. And you get an amazingly close view of the bird, you can get pictures of it, and then you actually see it fly off, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful experience. And our eagle releases attract a lot of people. We just released an eagle on July 6th down near my area, and it attracted 450 cars of people. So probably about 1,200 people were at that release. So, you know, come early, get a good parking spot, get a good viewing spot, and enjoy the event. The largest crowd we've ever had at a turkey vulture release was 12 people. But they were such cool people, I actually gave them all a free t-shirt. So you never know what's going to happen at a raptor release.
What time is the release?
The release is at 11 a.m. It will begin. And there's a little bit of introduction, and then the story about the eagle, answer any questions, then I explain how the whole procedure will happen, as far as I know, and then the event happens. So really cool pictures that happen at that.
It's tomorrow, right?
It's tomorrow. Yep. Just and you can always go to our website, and everybody can have a free bumper sticker today, and our web address is on the bottom, and so you can go to the website and learn more information. We're also on Facebook too, so you can really read a lot on Facebook. Besides education and excuse me, rehabilitation, we also do research with raptors, and we've added a new component to our mission statement, and that is animal-assisted therapy. And we've been asked to use raptors in medical situations and healing situations, so it forced me to go get my certification, which I just passed the class finally, and got my little diploma. And so we are just entering the exploratory stage of using these raptors, and it's very exciting. In order to do this work, I have to have special licenses, or Wings of Wonder does, because all of our raptors are protected by federal laws. And so we are licensed to do the rehab, the possession, artifacts, education, you know, all kinds of work with the raptors. It is illegal. Stop doing that. You can't fight at my program. Or the raptors will get you. They're hungry, okay? It is illegal to intentionally hurt a raptor. It's illegal to steal a baby raptor out of the wild to raise as a pet. It's even illegal to possess any part of a raptor, which includes feathers. If you're caught with a raptor feather in your possession, hypothetically, and you don't have a federal license for this, fines can be up to $1,000. Now, feathers are just like a hair, the modified hair. We have hair, and we have hair follicles. Birds have feathers and feather follicles. So just like we shed hair and grow new ones, raptors shed or molt feathers and grow new ones. So you're bound to find feathers on the ground, and especially right now, all of the raptors are molting. In fact, when I get these guys out, there might be some feathers floating around. Even if you come across this out in the wild, on the ground, you're not allowed to take possession of it. And the reason why is that there are still really creepy people on this planet who shoot and kill raptors and sell their feathers. So, and as our raptor populations are really dropping pretty drastically, our government has gone to the extreme to protect even molted feathers. Because how could you prove you didn't shoot the great horned owl against his feather? So just know that every part of a raptor is protected. If you find a dead hawk on the side of the road because it's been hit by a car, illegal to pull those feathers. You're supposed to just either leave the bird there or transport the bird to the DNR or to Wings of Wonder or someplace that's licensed. Now that being said, I do invite you to pick up feathers when you find them, because it's not illegal to study feathers. So pick them up, feel the textures of the feathers, look at the patterns on the feathers, look at them with a magnifying lens. It's very cool. On either side of the stem or the shaft of the feather, that fan of the feather is comprised of tiny little hooks that are arranged like millions of rows of zippers. And that's what holds that feather together when there's any kind of tug on it. So when the bird is flying through some branches maybe, and a branch pierces a row of those zippers or those hooks, what the bird will do is it'll eventually go up to a branch of a tree and it will comb its feathers. Now birds don't have a comb, so what do? They run the feather through their beak and they can actually zip those little hooks right back up. And you can actually see that with a magnifying lens. So I invite you to study feathers. Treat them with respect because they are federally protected. If it takes you 10 years to study this owl feather, just be careful with it. Don't be wearing it or make a dream catcher with it because it'd be hard to prove that you were truly studying it. But when you're done studying it, you can either destroy it or put it back out in the wild. Okay? So I do have a whole bag of feathers, variety of different raptors, and at the end of the program, if you want to come up, and we can put them on the table, and you can look at them and look at the different textures and study them all you want, and then put them back in the bag. All right? Now, as I get the birds out, I'm going to use them as my role models to point out some very cool features of raptors. But there's one feature I have to tell you before I get them out, because I can't do it with the bird on the glove. And that is, all of our raptors are meat eaters. And if possible, they will swallow their prey or their food whole. If it's too big, they tear it apart and swallow it. But the food goes down into their bellies where it's digested. The parts of their food that cannot be digested are put together in these cool little bundles called pellets. And the bird gags it up and gets rid of it. This is not poop. I wouldn't store poop on my table, okay? These come out of the mouth, all right? Now, all raptors make pellets, but not all pellets are like cool little treasure chests. Only the owl pellets have the cool things in them, meaning they contain bones, beaks, feathers, toenails, fur, anything that can't be digested with the owl pellets goes into that pellet and up it comes. So you can pull these owl pellets out of the wild, you can take them apart, take all the bones out, and you can reassemble the skeleton of the prey. So here's an example. This is a skull of a rat. This rat had been eaten by one of our great horned owls at Wings of Wonder. About 8 hours later, she gagged up her pellet, fell to the ground of the flight pen. My daughter, when she was 9 years old, went out to the flight pen, picked up the pellet, which looked like this, brought it in the house, and on the dining room table, which kind of bugged my husband, because that was a while ago. My daughter's 25 now, so it's been a while. But she took the pellet apart, took all the bones out, and then she reassembled the skull of the rat. So this was in about 7 pieces. I gave her a little bone chart. Excuse me. She put it all together with Elmer's glue. Took her about an hour. When she got it all done, she said, "Mama, that was the coolest puzzle I've ever done." Please don't take anything off the table. Hey, Carson, can you just watch the table? Yes. No, you can take a brochure. It's just very distracting when I see things start. Anyway, really cool puzzle that she did. So normally I have owl pellets that I do sell, some kits, but I'm filling this huge order for a camp of 150 pellets, and we're getting darn close to deadline. And I only dry and sell my great horned owl pellets. And we had, that really hot weather a week ago, and my owls decided to not eat when it's hot. And I'm like, come on guys, I'm gonna squeeze the pellet out of you because I still need about 20 more pellets. So I don't have any for sale, but if you want to order an owl pellet kit, you can do it off of our website, okay? All right, yeah, like please. How about this rat? A mouse? How about a quail, All right, so you can certainly ask questions if you have any questions. I really love interactive kind of programs, and when I get the birds out, you can't come up and touch the birds. They might be really interested in these snakes. Where did you get those? Huh?
Oh, put the snakes away.
Especially this guy might like us.
Now that your daughter's grown up, what does she do?
My daughter is a high school chemistry teacher in Texas.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
She didn't follow your example exactly.
Well, science, you know, and our son is a chemical engineer. Yeah. It's certainly not a wind-up. All right, so before I tell you anything about her, I'm going to get her a little untangled here. It's always amazing that it seems like this bird can braid when we're traveling. How do you do that, huh? All right, so before I tell you anything about her, I'm going to use her to point out the other special features of our raptors. All of those 7 categories of birds have they have amazing eyesight. They can see so much better than we can. They can see about 2.5 times further than we can see. They can see micro movements that we would not be able to notice at all. They can see in color and they see in black and white. So they have amazing vision. They also have these very powerful sharply curved beaks. These curve sharply downward so it doesn't interfere with that great vision of theirs. They use that beak to tear apart their food before they, or they can also use that beak to kill their food, okay? In the raptor world, the girls get to be bigger than the boys. We're members of the mammal family where usually guys get to be the big ones. But in the raptor world, the boys are all smaller except the vultures. Vultures don't follow the rules. So the boy vultures do get to be bigger than the girls. But with the other 5 categories of raptors, 6 categories of raptors, the girls are bigger. In fact, with the falcons, they're about, well, the boys are about 1/3 smaller than the girls, which makes life pretty tricky for those boys, because if the girls decide they don't like the boys, they can kill them and eat them. So you boys should be pretty happy that you're a mammal and not a raptor. The weapon of a raptor is what's at the end of those feet. Those are actually called talons. They're not called claws or toenails, they're called talons. The word raptor comes from the Latin word rapere, which means to grab or to grasp. This is how a raptor catches its food, this is how a raptor kills its food, and this is also how a raptor protects itself. So if you're ever going to rescue an injured, sick, or orphaned raptor out of the wild, be very, very mindful of those feet, because they're very skilled at lashing out really fast and grabbing you. And we have had a few raptors admitted to Wings of Wonder over the years that were still attached to their finders. Okay? So think about that one. Yeah, scary, scary, scary. You know, those were people that just weren't thinking, okay? All right, so this is a hawk, and the type of hawk this is called a red-tailed hawk. And this is how they got their name, is that beautiful red tail. Yeah. And this is the most common hawk in our state. In fact, red-tailed hawks are found all across Canada, throughout the U.S., and all the way down into South America. And the reason why they're found in so many places is because they're not picky. And when you're not picky and you live in the wild, you have a lot more opportunities for survival. Sit down, please. Yep. So they're not picky about where they nest. They will nest in the deep, dark forest. They'll nest in the one lonely tree in the golf course. And they are also, there's a pair of them nesting on a building in New York City right across from Central Park. In fact, there's a movie made about this pair called Pale Male and Lola. And all of you should watch it. It's at least 5 times. Okay, it's an amazing story of the life of, or just of the season, the breeding season and chick raising season, 1 year in the life of these 2 red tails. And it is simply spellbounding. Okay, so Pale Male and Lola. They're also not really picky about what they eat. They pretty much will eat anything that is their size or smaller. And that includes a lot of different kinds of animals. Their most common and preferred food would be rodents. This is Pearl, and she's fed mice at Wings of Wonder, and she eats about 2,000 mice a year. But these birds are also known as the chicken hawk. So yeah, they do love chicken. And you know, a chicken is a lot easier to catch than a mouse. So they will come down on a little teacup poodle, a small cat, snakes. Small children are safe. So they're quite they're opportunists, and that again helps them to survive in the wild. Now Pearl is 9 years old. In fact, I should tell you that all of our birds of prey are full grown, full size by the time they're 12 weeks old. Now mentally they're not grown up, but so she's 9 years old this year, and she was injured her hatch year. So she was raised by her wild parents, and in the mid to late summer of that year, she took out on her own, and she was flying and hunting just fine, but she flew in front of a car, and she got hit. The car collision did not break any bones, but what the car collision did is it yanked out a bunch of the long feathers on her left wing. And in the act of yanking those out, it permanently damaged the feather follicles, so she can't regrow those feathers. So without those long feathers on that wing, she cannot fly well enough to hunt. And so she would starve to death out in the wild. So she will live at Wings of Wonder for the rest of her life, and she could easily live to be 40 years old. So it's a good thing we get along. I'm going to show you, I'm going to ask her to open her wings so you can see that that left wing looks shorter than the right wing. She has all the bones in both wings. She's just missing. No, he's okay. He's not fighting anymore. She's just missing those long feathers, okay? Will you do this? Yep. Well, that was pretty good. You see the shorter one? Uh-huh. So Pearl, again, will be an ambassador bird at Wings of Wonder, and she's one of my most favorite birds, just because she's got a really strong personality, and she's kind of a challenge, but once she's figured it out, and I figured it out, we work really well together. So she's not really a sweet bird, but she's fun. Any questions about her?
How old is she?
She's 9 years old right now.
9 years old?
9 years old. What was? Is there?
That was the same question.
Oh, okay. Yes. Am I being mean to her? Oh, you think this is mean? She's like gets to live at the resort for all of her life. I don't think that's mean. Also, she's not chained to my glove. I mean, this is like taking a dog out on a walk with a leash. Does that mean? No. No. So this is her job, which is really not asking a whole lot of her. And then she gets to go back into a big 20-foot flight pen and watch the activity on the pond. And every once in a while, chipmunks burrow up in her enclosure, so she gets a chipmunk treat. I only find their tails. Yeah, and last year there was a snake that got into her enclosure, and it didn't get out. So I don't think I'm asking too much of her. Her option would be death. Okay? If she had not been rescued out of the wild, she would be dead.
Have you received any functions
From her? From her talent. I don't think I have from her. She's kind of nipped me one time. We were on a long distance travel to a program, and I could hear her kind of dancing around in her travel crate, and I actually pulled off the road, and she was just really tangled up. And so I was trying to untangle her, and I guess I was just taking too long, and I wasn't observing her body language, and she just sort of kneeled or reached down with her head and just sort of packed me on the cheek like, come on, let's get going. And I was like, oh, okay. Sometimes she's the training that I do with her, she has to fly to the glove, and there's times she's a little irritated about that, like, you know, bring the food to me. You know, we all want that every once in a while. But I do respect her feet and those talents.
Are they social?
They're not social, so that can be hard for a human to work with a raptor. They're not social. And so when people come to Wings of Wonder, I'm not open to the public, but we do tours by appointment. And people will say, oh, isn't she lonely? She's by herself, and it's like, oh, no. It's like, leave the food and get away. You know, I mean, actually we call her the diva at Wings of Wonder because she does not share at all. And there's times I put her in our 100-foot flight pen, just as a kind of a play day, which she would rather just sit on a high perch, but I make her do relays to kind of keep her aerobically conditioned. And last year we had a flighted bald eagle in there, and I was just like, I'm going to put her in there, and she took out after the bald eagle. Not smart, but and the bald eagle was like, wow, what is going on here, you know? So she's a very particular bird.
Can you breed them?
No, I don't. I do not have propagation
They
permits.
don't lay eggs for you?
Oh, they do lay eggs, but they're not fertile. There's no male in her. Yeah. She's never laid eggs for me, but some of our other birds do lay eggs. But they're not fertile. I never hear that reaction when I bring the turkey vulture out. He always gets this reaction. All right, so this is our smallest owl in Michigan. This is called a saw-whet owl. It is full grown, not a baby. And he's in the middle of a molt, so he's actually missing, he drops all of his tail feathers, so it actually makes him look a little bit short every now and then. But this is as big as they get. It's called a saw-whet. So it's spelled S-A-W space W-H-E-T. So it's a very long name for a teeny tiny little owl, all right? They are native to our area. So if you live in this area, or you live in Michigan, probably down to maybe, I don't know if they would be nesting south of like the Flint or Lansing area. They're more of a northern bird. You'll find these all the way up into Alaska. But around here, yeah, they're saw-whet owls, and they're impossible to see in the wild because they come out when it's dark. They come out when it's dark. They are very little, and they're the color of tree bark. So it's very, very difficult to see them. But you can get a better view of them by building a nest box for them. We've put the plans for the nest box right on the Wings of Wonder website. You can download the plans for free. You can follow the instructions, and you can attract a family of saw-whet owls right to your yard. So besides being drop-dead gorgeous, why would you want a saw-whet owl family living in your yard? Well, these guys eat the things that we consider to be pests. They eat lots of bugs, and they eat lots of mice. This is Ned, and he is fed mice during the year. He eats about 750 mice annually. He also eats about 300 fresh crickets a month, and then he'll hunt down like June bugs and night flying moths or anything kind of juicy that enters his flight pen. So they're very big eaters. They won't eat slugs that I know of. Yeah. So some cool things about owls. They have these beautiful circle faces, and that circle face acts like a satellite dish collecting sounds from the forest floor. The feathers on their faces are very stiff, and it directs the sounds across their face to where their ears are located, which are on the sides of their head like our ears. But most of our owls do not have symmetrically placed ears. One ear, usually the right ear, is bigger than the left ear, and it's a little higher up on their heads. And that displacement allows them to hunt and find their food better. They'll be sitting up on a branch of the tree, they'll hear the rustle of the mouse on the forest floor, they bob their heads and move their heads around till the sound reaches both ears at the same time. Now they know exactly where that little mouse or that bug is. So hearing is critically important on an owl. They also have these very large eyes for how little that they are. All of our owls have very, very large eyes. In fact, if you were to remove their eyeballs from their head and weigh those eyeballs, they would weigh almost 1/5 of the total body weight of the bird. So huge eyeballs, and in order to hold those eyeballs in place, owls have a special bony ridge that locks those eyeballs into their head, but it prevents their eyeballs from moving. None of our owls have any kind of eye movement at all. That's why they have to turn their heads to look around. But contrary to popular belief, they cannot spin their heads all the way around in a circle. They can turn their heads 3/4 of a circle, 270 degrees, so amazing flexible necks. Yeah, show them, okay? Okay, so this is Ned. I wanted a little one-syllable name for him. He was hit by a car, actually up this way about 6 years ago. The car collision did not kill him, which is amazing. He weighs less than 1/4 of a pound. But what the car collision did was break a bone in his right wing, the bone between his shoulder and his elbow. He had surgery to repair that fracture. Everything looked like it was healing just fine. He was in a big 40-foot flight pen, flying around after the cast was off. And so one night I decided, I'm just going to release him here on set at the center because we have saw-whet habitat. And I let him out the door. And it was a good thing that I did this at the center because I watched him fly into the woods and then it was like, oh, that didn't look very good. So I chased him down and I caught him again and we put him in our 100-foot flight pen and it turns out he could only fly 70 feet. So being rehabbed in a 40-foot flight pen, he looked fine. We videotaped him and it turns out that his damaged wing has a tiny little bit of a forward rotation to it and that's enough to prevent him from going free. So he's an ambassador bird at Wings and Wonder. He could easily live another 10 years. And he's also been a foster daddy. He's a good daddy, yeah. I think he's raised about 9 baby saw-whet owls, and he completely takes over all the care and becomes very protective of these babies to the point where it's dangerous for me to walk into the flight pen. So I have to wear my bicycle helmet and goggles and a heavy jacket, and it's like, July. But otherwise, if I don't do that, then I will have 8 needle-sharp talons in my neck or in my head or in my face because he is defending those babies. Now this year he's not a foster dad, so he's really nice. But it's great. We are really thrilled to see that kind of behavior with him. And those youngsters grow up very wild and we're able to release them back into the wild. Right?
I have a question.
Yeah.
What about fish in a water garden? They bother with
Sure. Question, what about fish in a water
garden.
A water garden? They're not going to go after the fish. No. I mean, if your goldfish, if one died and it was sort of on the, they might, but I don't think he's ever eaten fish. They're more of a June bug, night-flying mouse eater. Yeah. I wouldn't say that they would never eat fish, but they would never go after a live fish. Yeah. Yeah. Nope, he's full grown. The babies are about the size of a ping pong ball. Oh, and they're all cute, but the babies are a completely different color. When they get in their first set of feathers, completely different color. Those came from birds that were killed by cars. And so I preserved them so that after the program, you could come up and handle those and learn more about talons. That's why I preserved those. Any questions?
How old is he?
He's about 8.
8?
8 years old.
How is their sound?
Oh, they do a little like that. I'm terrible at owl sounds. Yeah.
Well, at least you try.
I know. I do what I can. Yeah. All right. So again, you can build a nest box to attract that saw-whet owl, but that same nest box plan will attract 2 other raptors. Another little owl just a little bit bigger, an inch bigger than the saw-whet, which would be called an eastern screech owl. They have little feather tufts, and they are attracted to the box as well. And some people will say to me, oh, I don't want to attract a screech owl because it'll keep me up at night. Well, screech owls don't screech. Okay? They have a little whinny sound, very pretty. If you hear screeching at night, you have a barred owl. Because they can screech and hoot and quack and clatter and, they have quite the voice. But the screech owl does not screech, and it can be attracted to the same nest box plant, and they'll even eat things as big as a chipmunk or red squirrel, so they're really good at it. And the third bird that nest box will attract is this little daytime hunting bird, which is a falcon. It's our smallest falcon. It's called an American kestrel. Here in Michigan, we have 3 different kinds of falcons. We have the kestrel. We have one a little bit bigger called a merlin. And then we have our largest falcon is the peregrine falcon, which is about the size of a crow and very, very fast. In fact, the peregrine falcon is the fastest animal on our planet. They've been clocked at diving out of the air at speeds reaching 280 miles per hour. Very, very fast. Now the kestrel is also a fast bird. They can dive at about 145 miles per hour. And they can do something that not many birds can do, and that is they can hover in place. So they'll be up on a branch, they'll see that mouse on the ground, they'll dive down, then they'll hover above it to fine-tune their pounce and come right down. Amazing hunters. This one wants its nest box that you all are going to build in an open area, more like this. This is perfect habitat for kestrel. Very open, there's lawn or open meadow because they love to eat grasshoppers. And now the grasshoppers are getting pretty big as we move into August, and they'll easily eat over 100 of them in a day. You know, this is a sign of a healthy bird. We want them to poop, and I love outdoor programs because I don't have to worry about it. I did get some on my boot though. But so very, very fast birds, really fun. Wings of Wonder is just entering a partnership with the Peregrine Fund out of Idaho to specifically target kestrel nest boxes. We'll be putting out a press release if you want to be part of the program. Submit your email so you get the announcement, but we will be doing a training, and it's a very cool kind of surveying your box and helping build up the kestrel populations. So some cool things about these kestrels, our falcons. They have these dark stripes under the eyes. Those are called mustache marks. And it's believed that they help to eliminate glare from the sun. Because when you're diving out of the air at those high speeds, you can't afford to be blinded by the sun. Okay? So those dark stripes, which is a field mark, you can see those from quite a distance away. This is Jada. She's 9 years old this year. 9. And you can probably see she has a wing disability. She has one wing. This wing is kind of drooping. When she was just a baby, she was pulled out of the nest and dropped, probably by a crow or a blue jay that wanted to eat her. And that fall broke 2 bones in her wing, the 2 bones between her wrist and her elbow. Her parents took care of her on the ground, feeding her. Those bones healed, but they healed incorrectly, leaving her with this droop. Now Jada can still open her wings and she can still flap and kind of get around, but she certainly cannot fly well enough to survive in the wild. So she's an ambassador bird. And she's in her enclosure at Wings of Wonder. She's got perches way up high. She can flutter around to those. She can sail down to get her bathing, to get her water, or to take a bath. But now she can't fly back up. So we provided her with a padded ramp. And so she takes her bath, and then she gets down to the bottom of she gets over to the ramp, and she shakes off the water, and then she goes, and she races right up that ramp really fast. So she's a happy girl. Yeah. She sees these dogs. Not like dogs. I'm surprised that she hasn't started screaming, but there's other things to look at too. But she's just a real delight, and it's really fun to get a family of kestrels moving into your nest box because you can just pull up the lawn chair and watch the activity. Very, very fun. Now we have used Jada as a foster mom, but the first attempt was not real good. We ended up with a little nest of tiny, tiny little baby kestrels, just downy covered. And I showed them to Jada, and she was so animated. And I put them in the nest box, and she jumped in there, and I was right there waiting, make sure everything was okay. And I could hear her kind of talking to the babies, and so I left. And I came back about an hour and a half later, and there wasn't a baby in sight. She ate them all. Toes, everything. So that's why she was all animated. Like, fresh orders, yeah. So since then, then, I've learned that I cannot give her babies that are tiny like that, but I can give her older babies that have some feathers on their body, but are still too young to fly. And we give her those babies, and she becomes a very stern, equals mean mom, and she kind of picks on them. She's always picking on them. And I swear that those babies learn how to fly really quickly. So they grow up really fast, and we're able to put them out the door a lot sooner. So she saves us a lot of money. Yeah. Yeah. So she's great, and she's our boss at Wings of Wonder, and she's in the front enclosure because she likes to see what's coming and going, and she also loves to do programs. And so when she sees me get car ready and start loading birds, she becomes really excited, and she's kind of screaming at me a little bit. But I've learned that she has to be the last bird in the car, and actually the last thing to be packed in the car, because once she's in the car, we better get going now. Because if the car is not moving, she will start screaming at me. So I'm ruled by a quarter-pound bird. Yeah. I'm well trained. Yes. Any questions about her? Yeah. It is a falcon. Yeah.
Once, my teacher said a peregrine falcon is like a live missile.
It's like a live missile. Yes, it is. Yeah.
I like it.
Everybody here likes this falcon. Any other questions? All right, one more. A little class, but I just put the lock on. It's like, I didn't really like it. You're fine. Where's your leash? This is what he would really like to have, that snake. This is a turkey vulture. Truly the only scavenger, dedicated scavenger of the raptor family. Although all of our birds of prey, oh, he's got a stretch. Yeah. All of our birds of prey will scavenge. Okay, but the turkey vulture is truly a scavenger. It'd be very, very rare for a turkey vulture to ever kill anything. And if they do kill an animal, I pretty much believe that that animal is only 2 breaths away from being dead anyway. Because these guys don't really have talons. They have claws. And they've been kind of... He wants you to think that he's been in this crate for like days, you know? Yeah, but you haven't, yeah. All right, so they've been kind of grandfathered into the raptor family. They were put in the raptor family, and then about 10 years ago they were removed from the raptor family because there was some research done. And it was shown through that research that the vultures were more closely related to short-legged storks. So they were put into the stork family. And then about 5 years later, they were put back in the raptor family. I think the stork people didn't want the vultures. We want them. So they're back in the raptor family. But they don't really have all the features of the other raptors like the talons. And their pellets are just fur balls. Yeah. Put an exclamation mark behind that one. But you know, for right now, they are a raptor. There's some really cool features of vultures, which makes them pretty endearing. Now they have, it appears like they have a hole through their beak, and they do not have a hole through their beak. These guys have huge, big nostrils. This is the only bird in North America with a highly developed sense of smell. They can detect odors in parts per million, like these dogs over here, okay? Most of our other birds in North America have a very poor to no sense of smell. So many of you have probably heard, oh, if you touch that baby robin, mom's going to smell human scent and she's going to abandon her baby. Totally not true. totally not true. In fact, birds don't just abandon their babies, but the mom or the dad cannot smell that human scent on their baby. But what you do when you touch a baby animal, like a baby robin, you are putting human scent on it. And that night, when the predators come out, like raccoons, they follow human scent, and they will lead them right to that little baby that you just touched. So that's why you should never touch a baby animal. The vultures are truly the keenest sense of smell of our birds of prey. So that they have the big channeled nostrils, and then they have this protective plate over their nostrils because they can't afford to have plugged up nostrils. So that just gives them the illusion, this appearance that they have a hole through their beak. They also don't have very many feathers on the top of their head, because if their heads were fully feathered and they had their head in the chest cavity of a dead animal, it would get full of blood and guts, and that would cause a problem. So they just have a little fuzz. And after they're done eating, they might have a little glue on their heads. They'll go sit out in the sun and bake it off. They take a sun bath. So it's a very cool way of cleaning off their heads. They don't have much of defense, I guess it would be called. These are really heavy-bodied birds, and they spend a lot of time on the ground, and it's very difficult for them to get airborne if danger approaches. So their survival strategy that they've really perfected is that they will throw up. And their vomit is the worst smelling stuff on this planet. So when they're sitting there eating a dead deer and a coyote approaches, the coyote could kill the vulture before the vulture could get airborne. So the coyote scares the vulture, the vulture throws up, the coyote is so grossed out, the coyote runs away, and then now it's safe for the vulture, and they're the ultimate recyclers. They even re-eat that vomit. So, they've carved out a niche that nobody else wants in this planet. And they're very, very successful at that. They are just the masters of flight. Yeah. Well, not stretch. I wanted you to flap. You flapped. Come on. Do that. Come on. Come on. Yeah. So this big guy here, this is Doolin, and he's about 3 or 4. I'm so bad with numbers. I should just paint it on their crates the year that we get them in. But he has a really sad story. Vultures nest on the ground in dilapidated old buildings or big old trees that have fallen over, and there's some hollow in the tree so they can get in and out of the weather. So being having their babies on the ground makes them much more vulnerable. Well, some stupid humans found him in a nest, and they stole him, and they raised him as a pet. And when they did that, they completely robbed him of his freedom. He's what we call a human imprinted animal. All baby animals, as youngsters, they go through this imprinting stage, which is a bonding stage. And in the perfect world, they bond or imprint to their parent. Boys and toys. Because they don't have mirrors out in the wild, so they look at their parent or sibling, and that helps them to identify what they are. So all he ever humans, being him, and so he bonded or imprinted to humans. Once that imprinting has happened, you can't change their minds. So Doolin, even though he could see well and he could fly and he could find roadkill, he would not seek out other vultures. He would seek out humans. And if he came down into somebody's backyard and scared that human, more often than not, when humans get scared of wildlife, they kill it. So life would be very dangerous for him out in the wild. So Doolin is our ambassador turkey vulture. He is, out of all of our 11 birds, he's our most highly requested program bird, which totally warms my heart that he beats out the eagle. He's changed a lot of people's views about vultures. They're really highly intelligent birds, and because they're intelligent, they have the ability to create games and be playful. And they have such strong personalities. And he actually has a cult following, I swear. So he's known as our rock star, which happened at a motorcycle event that he went to. All the other birds sort of freaked out with all the motorcycles and the rock and roll music that was blaring, and we were in the beer tent, so it was a lot of activity. But Doolin looked out over the sea of you know, black and tattoos and piercings and rock and roll, and he spread his wings like I have found my people. And he got dubbed the rock star, and it has really stuck with him. So he's just really fun. During the school year, I could put him down on the floor in the classroom, and he'll go around and untie all the shoelaces because, you know, they all need to be untied. But in the summer, you can't go down on the ground because he really likes toes. And he will try to pull toes off of feet, and it's very painful. When I enter his flight pen and I have got sandals on or something, I do what we call the vulture dance, and you're jumping around trying to keep your feet away from him, and he's just trying to, you know, get your toes. So they're just very playful in a captive environment with Doolin and other vultures that we get in rehab. We have to provide them with lots of toys. So we fill big cardboard boxes with stuffed animals and action figure dolls and rope toys and Kong toys. And the vultures just go up to the toy boxes and they pick out what toys they want to destroy for the day. Or sometimes they dump the box of the toys and they play with the box, you know. So it's just really fun. And what they do with toys is pretty amazing. But they can tear apart a Barbie doll in just a couple hours. I mean, her arms and legs are everywhere. Doolin doesn't get Barbie dolls anymore because one year I went out to his flight pen, was out there cleaning, and one of his pellets on the ground just looked kind of abnormal, and I picked it up and I was opening it up, and Barbie's face came out of the pellet, and it scared the bejesus out of me. So he doesn't get Barbie dolls anymore because that showed that he swallowed Barbie's head, and not a good thing. So he gets a lot of other kinds of toys.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you show me the difference between claw and talon?
Well, they just have really kind of weak toenails.
Okay, so
And talons are much sharper, much stronger. Yeah, they can rip you open. This would just scratch you.
thank you.
Yeah, but he does bite pretty effectively. All right.
What do you feed him?
He has fed a variety of food, certainly not rotten food, because I don't want that at our, because they can eat really, in the wild they can eat rotting flesh that would kill another scavenger. But he's fed quite a banquet. He's fed mice, rats, chicken, quail, rabbits, fish, crickets. Oh, I order 1,000 crickets a month, and I'll take like 20 of them out and put them in like a Tupperware container with some sand, and just put about 20 of them in there, and he just gets a lot of joy out of each one, and kind of nibbling on it, and then sort of spitting out the legs, and then So he gets quite a variety, and then the foods that the other birds don't eat, like our golden eagle, sometimes when I give her a big chunk of rabbit, if there's a leg on there, you know, a leg of a rabbit, she won't eat the leg, like the foot of the rabbit. So she eats all the meat around it, then I give him the foot, and it's like the best toy in the world.
What's your monthly food bill?
I know my annual food bill is $12,500 because I write a grant each year, and so for 3 years in a row, we've received a grant that just covers our food bill. Which, when I first figured out the food bill, I was shocked. But most of our diet is rodents, and I get the rodents from a rodent breeding lab downstate. Each month I drive down, and they kill the rodents with CO2 gas, so it's something that's not going to hurt the raptors. And they put them in big garbage bags, and they load my car with like 450 pounds of fresh, dead rodents. And it takes me 4 hours and 27 minutes to get home, and I'm speeding the whole time. Heaven forbid I ever get stopped by a cop because of, you know, I've got all those dead bodies in the back of the car. And then what we do is we sort them and clean them, and we stuff them into Ziploc freezer bags, and then just load the freezers. And so each night, it's my job to remember to take a bag of mice out of the freezer and a bag of rats and some quail and thaw it out in the kitchen sink of the hospital. Yeah. Yeah.
Why did
That's why I'm a vegetarian.
why did the people that raised him give him up? Or how'd you get him?
They were turned into the cops. Somebody called the cops, and he actually was raised, or he was hatched in Louisville, Kentucky, even though we have turkey vultures here. But I have a close colleague who runs the Kentucky Raptor Center, and she's in a very residential area, and the turkey vultures nest there, and people always steal babies. stupid humans. So she called me and she said, I have an imprinted baby vulture, do you want him? And I'm like, yeah. And so I applied for my paperwork to get him, and then it's like, I don't want to drive all the way down to Louisville, Kentucky. So I contacted Interlochen Public Radio, and I said, hey guys, can you help me out? And they're like, oh, this is a cool story. So they aired it over the radio that Wings of Wonder needed a volunteer driver to go down to Louisville, Kentucky to pick up a baby vulture. And like 7 people called in. And so, yeah, and so they forwarded the calls to me, and I chose this guy from Coltmish, Michigan, only because he had the most amazing sense of humor. And you have to have a sense of humor to spend 14 hours in a car with a turkey vulture. So, and he sang to the bird the whole time home, because he doesn't play the radio. He's like, well, I like to sing in the car, and I'm like, oh, they love to be sung to. So he sang to this baby vulture all the way home, and he's become Doolin's godfather. So he's like a vulture godfather. Yeah. So fun, yeah. You know, they're just, too bad the sun's not shining because their feathers are very iridescent. And he's just almost finishing up a molt, so he's just spectacular, beautiful.
Tell people how they can identify a turkey vulture in the sky.
Oh, and when they're flying, you know, they'll form this kind of a V up there in the sky, and they can just soar and soar and soar without flapping their wings. But the way to tell the difference between a turkey vulture and like a bald eagle flying is a turkey vulture, as it's soaring, it tips like that, where a bald eagle is very, very steady. So when you see the tipping, the rocking, is a turkey vulture. Very characteristic.
And also the white under the wing.
Yeah, but sometimes you don't see that. You know, depending on the angle of the sun, and you know, you'll see the dark, you know, for sure. But yeah, you're a good boy. Yeah. All right. Any other questions? He, you know, I told you how intelligent they are, and at that motorcycle rally, he learned something new, which at first was kind of cute, and then it became extremely annoying. And that is, if he doesn't want to go back in his travel crate, all he has to do is open his wings, and he doesn't fit through the door. And it became really annoying after a while at programs where I'd walk up to the crate, and I'd just get him right up there, and he'd open his wings. And then I'd take a step back, and he closes his wings. And of course people would laugh, and he's all, whoa, see, that's pretty cool. So I worked really hard at training that behavior out of him, and it disappeared for a while, and it's just resurfaced. So we'll see if he'll go back in. But you're welcome to come up once I get him in the crate. We have a brochure for one member of each family. Please don't each family member take one. A bumper sticker, there's 2 different ones. There's one of Doolin and one of Pearl Art Redtail. So you can each have one bumper sticker. You can come up and handle the feet if you want. I ask that you just keep the foot over the table. Do not walk away with it. And only put it in your own hand. If I see anybody do this to their neighbor, then you have to put the foot down and you have to leave because you can hurt somebody. And you can certainly pick up his wings. And I'm available to answer questions too, okay? So we'll see if he'll go. Oh, and I want to really thank the chamber, the Central Lake Chamber, for bringing this program here, and Melissa too. They're funding this.